Hi there, welcome back. What does it mean to cheat? What is a cheater? Have you ever thought about that? So what are we talking about? What's the first thing that comes to mind when someone says cheat, cheater, or cheating? Is it like an affair between romantic partners? Do you think of school children peeking at the answers to the test or looking at their classmate to get the answers to the test? Or possibly do you think of athletes who take drugs or other enhancing materials like steroids or whatever for muscle or performance enhancing drugs? What comes to mind when you are out in the world and you hear the word cheat or cheater or cheating? Are those kind of like, in your opinion, like maybe the most common or most talked about forms of cheating? I guess in my mind, those are the first things that came to my mind, which is why I have them as examples. Because I spent some time thinking about this, and I have spent some time over the years during my initial healing process kind of ruminating on this idea of cheating and what a cheater is, right? So let me ask you about this. And some of you, I don't know, might be too young to remember this story. Some of you might remember it, but you can Google it, and Wikipedia is got the whole story, start to finish. It's a very long one because this goes back to the early 1990s, the story of Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. These were two very well-known figure skaters, female figure skaters. And I'm just going to give you a nuts and bolts of the story just for your reference, so you kind of know what we're talking about here in the event you don't know the story. Both of these gals started skating when they were super young. Tonya Harding, I think she started skating at the age of 3 or something like that, and she had serious skill. And she had set records. I think I read an article for like the triple axel or something like that. And incredibly complex figure skating moves that even the most talented figure skaters in the world had struggled with. Tonya mastered them. And Nancy Kerrigan was another figure skater that had set records and had achievements and things like that. And both of these women were in the National Olympic trials. I think in 1994, they were holding the nationals in the U.S. To get the Olympic team selection for 1994. And they were going to compete at nationals for their placement or non-placement in the Olympic trials. And as usual, like all the competitions were on television stations and everybody was super excited for the Winter Olympics, and Nancy was randomly attacked at the arena where they were all performing and competing. While she was walking behind some curtain, some guy came out of nowhere and whacked her on the leg, and film crews were there, and the whole incident was, brought to all of the media outlets instantly. And there was a huge deal made out of this incident because in the immediate few moments and hours and days of the incident, Nancy was supremely injured. She could not skate. And there was a lot of speculation that Tonya Harding, her competitor and potential teammate on the U.S. Women's Olympic skating team, could possibly be involved in this plot to injure Nancy. I mean, something like this had never happened before in Olympic training or competitive history. Like, it was so weird to have this sort of thing happen. And so there was a lot of speculation, a lot of media attention around this. Everyone in the world wanted to know what the heck happened, whether Tonya was involved, and who would do such a thing to Nancy when, they were all such great athletes, just to get a leg up That was a good pun. In the trials, right? So, I mean, this was the topic, I think, during the entire Olympic season. And so fast forward, here we are in 2022. Tanya's ex-husband was directly involved and hired two guys to basically break Nancy's leg, right? So then it became this big controversy over like, well, if it was Tanya's ex-husband, is that just ironic or did she play a role? Years later, a grand jury actually found evidence after lots of research and stuff that Tanya had been directly involved in the plot and execution of the injury to Nancy. And so, but she couldn't be convicted at that point because she had entered a plea deal before. So this is a very interesting case in my opinion, and I'm sure there's lots of them across the world that I could look into, but this I just remember being like, wait a minute, how can someone get away with something like this, right? Because this is another well-known example of cheating. There's probably loads of them, like I said, but this example actually addresses the type of cheating that I'm talking about in this video, not affairs between romantic partners or school children looking at, their classmates' test or writing the answers to the test on their hand and cheating on their test, or athletes taking performance-enhancing drugs like steroids. We're talking about someone who wanted to take someone else out in order to get themselves ahead, and that's cheating. Tanya cheated. So when we're talking about cheating, it's kind of interesting to think of those, first couple examples that come to mind, and then the other examples of cheating where it's at the expense of someone else. Someone does something to someone else to get themselves ahead by taking them out or something. The other ones are much more obvious and much more common to think about, or talk about. Tanya Harding and her ex-husband and the two hitmen they hired to take out Nancy's leg were absolutely cheaters. All of them were. But we don't talk about those kinds of cheaters a whole lot, right? Let's change that. Let's start talking about what it means to cheat. Let's talk about people who cheat to get ahead, to get themselves ahead. So Tanya Harding was a cheater. My ex-coworker was a cheater. Are you dealing with a cheater? I mean, and I'm not talking about the test-taking cheater or the affair between romantic partners. I'm talking about someone in your life that is cheating to get ahead, that is being dishonest. So this is where it gets interesting in my opinion. So I looked up, like just online, on Merriam-Webster, they define a cheater in this way: to be sexually unfaithful. That's one of the obvious ones we already talked about. To violate the rules dishonestly, the performance-enhancing drugs, and looking at your classmates' answers. But then we get into the more interesting definitions: to deprive someone of something valuable by the use of deceit or fraud. To influence or lead by deceit or trickery. To practice fraud or trickery. So we're getting into more of the mental part of cheating. Perhaps not just limited, speaking of cheating, not just limited towards like outward actions that are contrary to the rules, like affairs and cheating and performance enhancing drugs, but like those actions would be directly contrary to the rules, but cheating can also be much more complex and more inward, where it's an effort and a concentration on the how in order to get ahead or achieve. Cheating that involves much more mental work than just the physical action that might break the rules. Cheating can involve things like cunning, manipulation, conniving, scheming, plotting, like in the case of Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding, big, huge plot, and so on and so forth. Tanya was a cheater, even though she's not the one that took the lead pipe and struck Nancy Kerrigan. Tanya's ex-husband was also a cheater, even though he's not the one that actually took the lead pipe and struck Nancy Kerrigan. The guys that the ex-husband hired to injure Nancy Kerrigan, they were cheaters. All they were getting out of it was money. They didn't care about the figure skating competition or who came first, second, or third. So they were trying to get something. They injured Nancy in order to get something. So they're cheaters too. So they're at someone else's expense. That's why they're cheaters, right? So therefore, a narcissist, by very definition, is a cheater. A cheater can exist without being narcissist. Let's not get them confused. You can have a cheater that's not a narcissist. You know, if I, cheat on a test or whatever that I'm going to take, I may not be a narcissist, but I cheat on the test, But every narcissist is a cheater, because by their very nature, they're trying to achieve or accomplish or gain at the expense of others. That's the definition. One of the definitions. So they not only cheat themselves, because for the most part, they're not really aware of what they're doing. They're living in survival mode. They cheat themselves, they cheat the system, they cheat their loved ones. Their entire lives are fraudulent. In the case of a narcissist, their entire identity is from the perspective of survival mode, where they absolutely cannot feel. They cannot be connected to their emotions, how they're feeling, disappointed, hurt, anything like that. Their worst nightmare is to feel. The moment, unless it's joy, unless it's satisfaction and gratification and it fuels their ego, that's the only thing that they live for, because they have the walls up, the armor on. There is no way anybody's going to hurt them again. Again, not excusing, okay? Not excusing their behavior, what they are. They are cheaters for life. Once you are dealing with an adult narcissist, it's already locked in. It's very rare, as I touched on in a prior video, to ever get a narcissist into therapy and get them to improve or change. They may go into therapy voluntarily to get ahead, or to use you, or to use a therapist, or again, to cheat themselves, or they're enablers out of something. But generally they will not go into therapy voluntarily and for the genuine goal of improving their relationships and improving themselves. So when you start to feel anger and resentment building after you've maybe parted ways with a narc, or you're trying to gray rock or get away, and you find yourself starting to feel that angst again, and you just want to scratch their eyes out or scream at the top of your lungs at them, always remember that they got to where they are because they cheated. They may think they are more than or better than, but they're not really. Because they got to where they are, they achieved what they got because they cheated. So they genuinely are less than you. They really are. And what's perhaps worse, in my opinion, is the enablers that allowed them to cheat. It's kind of like the teacher that turned the other cheek or ignored the fact that their student was cheating when they knew that they were cheating. Would that make you angry as a parent or guardian if you knew that that teacher kind of looked the other way after your child worked so hard and studied and got a really good grade? Say they got a B, and you're so proud of them, they're so proud of themselves, but then you find out the other one cheated and got an A. How angry would that make you? Heck yes, it makes me angry, But this is what I tell myself, and ask yourself when you're feeling that way, how far is that student that cheated and got an A really going to get in life? By cheating. They might get far by cheating. They might accomplish something. But what is their life really, truly like? Empty, ugly life. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.